In this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of false shuffles, false cuts, and techniques that you could use to do a trick similar to what I'm about to show you. So let's say we're mixing the cards up, give them another cut, a couple of shuffles, one of these, maybe we'll give them a table cut like this, a triple cut, and then we're going to try to find the four aces. Now there's fancy ways to show the four aces, but I just want to show that we've controlled them to the top. But not just that, we control the rest of the entire deck, 2 through king in each of the suits. Now, obviously, that was just a series of false cuts and shuffles to demonstrate what you can do here. And you do many other tricks with this type of move. I just put the deck in brand new deck order with the aces on top just to give an example of what I was doing. So we'll start off with something simple, a false cut. So it's going to look something like that. You're pulling from the bottom half of the deck and putting that down. And then when you put the rest on top, the mind just makes it think that you cut the deck. So in regular motion, it would just look like that. That's a false cut. Top card didn't change. Now, as a convincer, instead of just dropping it on the table and doing that, which does work, you could just do that. I like to take the bottom, tap it against the top once, and then put it down and put the rest on top. This next move is a little bit fancier, so it looks something like this. It's a triple cut onto the table. And again, we kept top card, we kept the entire deck in the same order. You're going to hold the entire deck between your thumb and your middle finger. And then with your index finger, you're going to spin about a third of the deck off and catch it in your other hand between your thumb and your index finger right here, like that. Then when you take the next batch, the center of the deck, you do the same thing, except you're going to hold it separate by putting your middle finger underneath like that. And then you're going to take the bottom of the deck and just drop it to the table. Then you're going to grab this packet, which is the middle of the deck, and put it back right in the middle, and then grab this part, which was the top, and put it right back on top. And it's going to look like this. Top section, middle section, immediately drop the bottom, put the middle right back on, and put the top right back on top. Now, when you put all those moves together, it looks like this. If we can make it look a little more fancy by keeping the cards in your hand, not putting them on the table. Instead of being split across with your index finger of this hand, you're going to split it from the back of the cards using your other index finger. Let it pivot against your middle finger. So it's going to look like this. And as soon as it gets here, just let it fall into that hand. All right, so I'll show that again. It's going to look just like that. Once you got that part down, you go to the second part. As soon as it falls, you immediately split this next batch in half. Your thumb is going to grab this bottom section here. And while that's grabbing there, your middle finger is going to grab this section and pull it back. So you're just separating it back. You're just taking that part back that was in this hand. Now, with the bottom corner of this deck, this chunk, you're going to put it against your thumb, let it spin and then drop into your hand, and then put the rest of the cards right back on top. Sounds complicated, but it's not that hard once you get used to the move. So it's top section, fall, split, grab it, pass it back across over here, spin this section here, drop the top, and you've done a false cut. And in regular motion, it looks like this. This is one of the easier versions of a false shuffle. It's actually just multiple cuts, but it looks like a shuffle. You're going to grab a section from the bottom, and you're going to put it on top, but you're going to keep a thumb break. So you're just going to hold it with your thumb like that, just a whole section. So now when you take the next batch from the bottom, you're going to sit on top, still keeping the same original thumb break. And then you can do as many of these as you want until you get to that thumb break. Just keep doing that. And then when you get to the break, grab the entire chunk, put it back on top. And in regular motion, it's going to look like this. With those moves that I've taught already, you've got enough to do a really great routine, and people will not know that you're false shuffling cutting. But if you want to learn the master move, this is called the Zorro Shuffle. And let me tell you, this is a convincer because the cards look like they're being shuffled, but they're not. The first thing is the way you split the cards. So it should look as though you're just doing this. But what you're actually doing is, with your index finger, you're going to pull the top card. So you're actually going to separate like this, taking one card off the top. So now, if you were to put these cards back together by lifting this top card and putting these back and putting that back, you'd be in the original order. So now that you've separated the cards that way, you're going to straighten them up and then let them interlace with each other. And they actually do interlace. The key is when you get to this last card, you're going to hold this one last card and push these last few from the other hand into there. So it looks like a mess and it looks like they're shuffled. But if you look closer from the side, you'll see that they're on the bottom, they're shuffled, but the top section of the cards are not actually fully shuffled yet. So if I were to spin the deck like this, I can still separate those bottom cards out and lift them back and put them back into the original order. You did your shuffle. You held that last card back and pushed these in. It looks like a real mess. Now what you're going to do is grab the rest of these cards. You're gonna turn them forward to dislodge them, lift up a little bit to slide them back in, and then just push the whole mess together again. And it looks like you shuffled, but you didn't. Now, there's a couple of nuances here, right? So you have to have a good surface so that you can do a nice table shuffle. I'm using a felt table here. If you're on a hardwood table, this is gonna be really hard to do. You might wanna lean off the edge of the table so you get your fingers underneath the cards. Secondly, when you're doing this first part where you're separating them, you wanna do this quickly, because if you just went like that, it's kind of obvious you did something weird, right? But if you just take them and you're like, okay, I'm gonna shuffle, it's pretty hard to see that I did anything special there. You have to get comfortable with being able to do that and then just pushing these cards in. And then when you're doing this part where you're gonna straighten it up, you don't wanna go slowly and turn it straight and then lift up and push in. That's way too obvious. Instead, you want it to look more like you're doing your shuffle, you push these in and you just kind of make a mess of them and square them up.